Chapter 1, Who Am I? What era is this in? Please add it to your collection, please vote for me, and please recommend me. For the sake of the Tao, for the sake of the Tao, wake up quickly. Oh God, his head is injured. Someone come and help him. Zhuge Xiaoyang finally regained consciousness. He heard a girl crying. It seemed that a person named Wei Dao was injured and needed help, but he seemed to have fallen and needed help too. He only remembered that he was riding his newly purchased electric bike to go on a blind date in the 40-degree heat, when suddenly a large truck sped out from the other side. When Zhuge Xiaoyang thought of a large truck driving towards him, he opened his eyes suddenly, and then he saw a foreign girl about 20 years old, with delicate features like a porcelain doll, skin as white as milk, and naturally curly brown hair, staring at him with a pair of big blue watery eyes. What's going on? Is she the driver of a large truck or a good Samaritan passing by? And why is she wearing fur? It's 40 degrees. Isn't she hot? It doesn't seem to be hot, and it's still very cold. It's that biting cold. The wind blows on your face, as if it's been cut by a knife. There are heavy goose feather-like snow falling in the leaden sky. What the hell is going on? Zhuge Xiaoyang's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he was hit by a truck and ended up in the underworld? This hell is so damn cold, and my head hurts so much. For Dao, you're awake. That's great. The foreign girl saw Zhuge Xiaoyang waking up shivering, and quickly helped him sit on the snow, and then hugged him into her arms. Now, Zhuge Xiaoyang was confused. Although he is already in his 20s, he has just graduated from college and became a high school history teacher, a good young man who has successfully entered the system. He is very simple. He has always known how to study hard and make progress every day. He has never even held a girl's hand. Why is he hugging a foreign girl now? Can this be called indecent assault? Also, what was that squishy thing that his arm touched? When Zhuge Xiaoyang thought of this, he glanced down. Oops. That foreign girl was pressing against him with a pair of towering peaks. The foreign girl seemed to have discovered that the man in her arms suddenly became a little irregular, and she was shocked, ashamed, and happy. This man had been keeping aloof from her, as if he was pursuing her, but not so proactive. Unexpectedly, there was finally progress today. First, he took a bullet for her without hesitation, and now he is obsessed with her again. But now is not the time for affection. Thinking of this, the foreign girl reminded her in a low voice, "For the sake of Dao, where are you looking?" Zhuge Xiaoyang quickly looked away, still a little reluctant to let go, and took another sneak peek. When he was about to explain it to this pretty foreign girl, he suddenly remembered the roar of an explosion, followed by dense sounds like firecrackers exploding one after another. What's going on? It's Chinese New Year? Set off firecrackers? Also, where are you? Zhuge Xiaoyang quickly raised his head and looked around. At first glance, he felt as if he had been hit by a body-fixing spell, and he was dumbfounded. Because he found that he seemed to be in a square where a fierce battle was breaking out. This was a Western-style square, surrounded by grand buildings in the 18th or 19th century. It looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where it was for the moment. The square does not occupy a large area, and there are many people wearing leather jackets and old-fashioned gray military uniforms that are only seen in movies, TV, and computer games, running and hiding in all directions. There were also some people in military uniforms holding rifles and shooting at each other. There is also a heavy machine gun that looks like a Maxim machine gun. It is placed under a 3-story building with green walls, white columns, and sculptures on the roof. It is constantly spitting out tongues of fire. From time to time, there were fireballs rising up in the square, like small-caliber artillery shells exploding. By the way, the people running away and fighting in the square seemed to be foreigners. What's going on? Could it be that I was hit by a big truck and sent flying to a battlefield somewhere? It's impossible. It's impossible to use vintage rifles and Maxim machine guns on the battlefield in the 21st century, right? Could it be that he traveled through time? Zhuge Xiaoyang sometimes reads online novels to spice up his boring life. Of course, he also knows the concept of time travel. This seems to be the treatment only the protagonists of novels have. You won't encounter such a fantastic thing, right? He secretly looked at the foreign girl who was hugging him again. She was so beautiful, and her figure was even more charming. Isn't she the heroine? For the sake of the Tao, for the sake of the Tao, let's get out of here quickly. Let's hide in the General Staff Building. The foreign girl didn't know that someone was already lusting after her body, and she shouted, for the way, in fluent Chinese. She also kindly helped Zhuge Xiaoliang, who was sitting in the snow, thinking about things, and pulled him towards a nearby huge building with a yellow exterior wall and a very majestic golden arch. Zhuge Weidao saw this building and heard the foreign girl call it the General Staff Building. He finally remembered. Isn't this the General Staff Building on the Winter Palace Square in St. Petersburg? The house with green walls opposite is the Winter Palace. At this time, the fighting on the Winter Palace Square was still continuing, with gunshots, cannons, and explosions ringing out. The two warring parties set up their battle formations outside the Winter Palace and on the left side of the Golden Arch of the General Staff Building, and they fought back and forth. But for some reason, on the right side of the Golden Arch of the General Staff Building, which occupies a large area, there are many civilians watching the excitement, all wearing furry leather jackets like the foreign girl. It doesn't seem wise to start a war under such circumstances, and crossing the line of fire is also very dangerous. Should I just lie down and play dead now? Zhuge Xiaoliang also played shooting games, and he actually kept a clear head at this time. He was just about to remind him of his heroine, but he found that this foreign girl was opening her arms and protecting him with her body. Zhuge Xiaoliang was so moved by this. What a good heroine. We can't let her get hit by a bullet. Thinking of this, he wanted to use his body to protect the foreign girl. But at this moment, a group of soldiers wearing blue military uniforms rushed out from a door of the building. Not the Golden Arch. This building has many doors. The leader was a very handsome young white man who looked a bit like the heroine. He was also wearing a very gorgeous military uniform with tasseled epaulets. He looks like a high official. I don't know what the relationship is with the heroine. The young official quickly rushed to the side of Zhuge Xiaoliang's heroine, grabbed the heroine's left hand, and then ran into the building. While running, he shouted in fast and urgent Russian, "Natalie Pavlovna, why did you come to the Winter Palace Square? Didn't anyone tell you that this place is dangerous? Someone is going to rebel." Zhuge Xiaoliang suddenly found that he could understand Russian. It seems that I have really traveled through time. I don't know what era it is now. Judging from the weapons and military uniforms they use, it must be from the early 20th century, right? Could it be October? While he was thinking about it, the heroine named Natalie Pavlovna also said in Russian to the young official of the Rakshasa kingdom, "I know it's a mess here, but Mikhail Pavlovich, those people are our friends and our own people. Why do they oppose Nikolai Pavlovich becoming the Tsar?" Become a Tsar? Zhuge Xiaoliang was listening while walking, and he was so dumbfounded. That's not October anymore. Could it be that something went wrong when Nicholas II came to the throne? There seems to be no record in the history books. Also, wasn't Nicholas II's middle name Alexandrovich? How did he become Pavlovich? The beautiful heroine and the young man named Mikhail Pavlovich are likely to be brother and sister. They look very similar, and their patronymic names should both be Pavlov, and the patronymic name of Nicholas, who will become the Tsar, seems to be Pavlov. Are they the younger brother and sister of Tsar Nicholas II? Nicholas II had such a beautiful sister. And what is the relationship between this Tsar girl and the protagonist herself? Is it the legendary relationship between men and women? Then who am I? While he was racking his brains to find out from the rich historical knowledge he had mastered the era that could be compared with the current situation, he was already dragged into a hall of the General Staff Building with many portraits by the beautiful heroine and a young man suspected of being a Tsarist prince. As soon as he entered the hall, he felt dizzy, and then he sat down on the cold ground. At this time, his head hurt again, so he reached out and touched a big bald head, which was still wet and had a big bulge. "What's wrong with Major Zhuge?" The young man, who seemed to be the prince of Tsarist Russia, seemed to know Zhuge Xiaoliang's new body. I wonder if it was God's will that this new body also had the surname Zhuge. His head was injured. He was scratched by a bullet to protect me. He is so brave, the beautiful heroine said as she took out a handkerchief and began to wipe Zhuge Xiaoyang's wound. Her movements were very gentle and skillful. After wiping for a while, she pressed the wound with her handkerchief and said, "There is a big hole in his scalp. It needs to be sewn up immediately. Go get the first aid kit." "Natalie Pavlovna, can you do it? Do you want to call a doctor?" Prince Natsur asked. "You don't need a doctor. I have learned field nursing," the beautiful heroine said with certainty. "Okay, go get the first aid kit." After a while, someone shouted, "Her Royal Highness, please bring the first aid kit." Grand Duchess? Zhuge Xiaoliang was so surprised that he even forgot about his headache. Is this beautiful heroine really the sister of Nicholas II? But why can a Russian Grand Duchess speak Chinese? Also, what is the relationship between her and me? Why can't I remember anything? Who am I? Why did the Russian prince call me Major Zhuge? Am I a major of the Bayam army? Thinking of this, he touched the back of his head with his other hand. There were no braids. Could it be that the Qing dynasty no longer exists? What year is it now? At this time, the beautiful Grand Duchess had already handed over the task of pressing Zhuge Xiaoliang's hair to the prince. She never knew who had the first aid kit in her hands. She skillfully tore open the seal, took out a lot of things from it and spread it on the ground, and then started to work. Prince Tsarist Russia pressed a handkerchief to the wound on Zhuge Xiaoliang's new head and asked, "Do you need any painkillers? There must be some in the infirmary of the Admiralty." When Zhuge Xiaoliang heard what the prince said, he felt severe pain in his head. It seemed like he needed some painkillers. But the beautiful Grand Duchess turned back and glared at the Tsarist prince. "Mikhail Pavlovich, what are you talking about? Wei Dao is the great-grandson of King Zhuge Wuzhong of the Ming Dynasty. He has the smartest brain, and we cannot let anesthetics damage his precious brain cells." As she spoke, she glanced lovingly at Zhuge Xiaoliang, but she saw a completely frozen face. The Grand Duke was also afraid of pain because her Zhuge Wei Dao comforted her in soft Chinese. "Dear Wei Dao, you are the bravest. You are my warrior. You'll not be afraid of pain, right?" After saying that, he held the alcohol cotton and needle and thread with his rubber-gloved hands and walked towards the stunned Zhuge Xiaoliang. The reason why Zhuge Xiaoliang was confused was not because he was afraid of pain, but because he had already discovered that something was wrong. Who is King Zhuge Wuzhong of the Ming Dynasty? Is there such a person in Ming Dynasty? And just now he suddenly saw that among the portraits of people who were mostly famous Tsarist Russian generals hanging on the walls of this luxurious hall, there seemed to be a very strange portrait mixed in. The human face in the painting was like a crown jade, wearing a silk scarf on his head, a crane cloak, and a feather fan in his hand, looking like a fairy. Isn't this Zhuge Wuhe? Zhuge Xiaoliang's surname is Zhuge. His old family tree can say that he is after Zhuge Wuhe. Of course he knows what Zhuge Liang is dressed like. Even if his surname is no longer Zhuge, it is impossible not to recognize Zhuge Liang in the picture. What's going on? What era is this? Why is there a Ming Dynasty King Zhuge Wuzhong? Why is Zhuge Liang's portrait hung together with the portraits of a group of Tsarist Russian generals? Why can a naturally beautiful Russian Grand Duchess speak fluent Chinese and be so affectionate with a major who should be from the Beiyang Navy? It's unlikely that this happened in the late 19th or early 20th century, right? It's Sohn. You are so brave, my hero. I don't know how long it took, but the beautiful Grand Duchess spoke again. When Zhuge Xiaoliang heard her voice, he realized that she had sutured his wound. The pain also came. It really hurt. Just as he was about to cry out in pain, the Grand Duchess's soft, sweet red C suddenly pressed against his lips. Was this a kiss? So comfortable. Zhuge Xiaoliang realized that when the Grand Duchess was kissing him, her whole body started to float a little bit. Is this what it feels like when love comes? Chapter 2. He is not Zhuge Liang. He is your father. Chapter 2 is here for you. Please collect it. Just when Zhuge Xiaoliang felt that love had come, the sound of gunfire outside the General Staff building stopped, followed by loud cheers. Wula. Allah. Allah. Tsar Nicholas the First. Wula. Tsar Nicholas the First. Wula. Zhuge Xiaoliang suddenly felt that something was wrong and gently pushed the Grand Duchess away and asked in a low voice, Nicholas, Yes. The beautiful Grand Duchess's red lips had separated from Zhuge Xiaoliang's lips, and she said to Zhuge Xiaoliang with a red face, The new Tsar is Nikolai Pavlovich, my third brother. My second brother, Konstantin Pavlovich, gave up the throne, so Nikolai Pavlovich is the legal Tsar of Rakshasa. It seems that he has successfully defeated the guards who opposed him. The D people revolted in October and December. Zhuge Xiaoliang whispered, Is it 1825 now? Zhuge Xiaoliang knows history best. Although there must be something wrong with the current period of history, he immediately thought of the Rakshasa Kingdom's December D people uprising. However, looking at the weapons used for fighting, it didn't look like the era of the Rakshasa Kingdom's December D people uprising. Hearing Zhuge Xiaoliang's question, the beautiful heroine giggled. Dear, what's wrong with you? Why can't you even remember the date? It's December 14th, 1825. Zhuge Xiaoliang was stunned and completely stunned. How could there be a machine gun in 1825? There were no machine guns during the Y movie war. Why is it there now? Oh, and there are electric lights. At this time, he had noticed that the lights were on in the hall where he was. Thomas Edison wasn't even born yet. Where did this electric light come from? And where does the electricity for lighting the lights come from? What kind of world is this? The beautiful heroine Natalie Pavlovna took off her rubber gloves while talking and then pulled Zhuge Xiaoliang, who was still stupid. Dear Wei Dao, does your head still hurt? Can you stand up and walk? The gunshots outside have stopped, and people are already cheering for Nicholas I. We should also go to the new Tsar. Halfway through her words, she found Zhuge Xiaoliang standing there motionless, staring blankly at the wall in front of her that was filled with portraits. Wei Dao, what's wrong with you? Natalie asked. Zhuge Xiaoliang raised his hand and pointed to a painting on the wall. Who is he? Who was the person on the right of the one-eyed dragon? He was pointing to the portrait of Zhuge Liang. How could the portrait of Zhuge Liang appear in the General Staff Building of Tsarist Russia? This is too strange. If you ask clearly, you may be able to unlock the secrets of this world. Dear Wei Dao, what's wrong with you? Natalie Pavlovna looked at Zhuge Xiaoliang in surprise. Natalie Pavlovna, Zhuge Xiaoliang also noticed something strange, so she asked again, Tell me quickly, who is the person on the right of the one-eyed dragon? Oh God, Natalie Pavlovna exclaimed, and then made the sign of the cross on her chest. The one on Prince Potemkin's right is your father. This answer was so unexpected that Zhuge Xiaoliang immediately shouted, How could my father be Zhuge Liang? God, for Dao, what's wrong with you? Natalie's blue eyes were filled with tears. That's not Zhuge Liang. That's your father, Marshal of the Ming Dynasty Zhuge Yud. What? Marshal of the Ming Dynasty? Zhuge Xiaoliang was confused. What era is this? It's already 1825. Why is there still a Ming Dynasty? Also, who am I now? Thinking of this, he stopped hiding it and simply asked Natalie, Natalie, who am I? Hearing this question, Natalie's blue eyes widened, and she was stunned for a while before saying, Dear Wei Dao, you are the great-grandson of King Zhuge Wuzhong, the son of Marshal Zhuge Yud and Major Zhuge Wei Dao, the military attaché of the Ming Empire's embassy in the Rakshasa Empire. The Ming Empire, is it really still alive? But how did Daming survive? What happened? Why is history different from what is written in history books? Why? Why are there too many, and Zhuge Xiaoliang's new brain is completely blank with no answer at all. Thinking about it made Zhuge Xiaoliang's head hurt, and the pain made his vision go black, and then he couldn't remember anything. Natalie Pavlovna, the doctor said that Dao's had suffered a severe blow. His brain is likely to be damaged, he has lost part of his memory, and he may even become a fool. Mikhail Pavlovich, what are you talking about? How can Wei Dao become a fool? He is so smart, and he will definitely become Zhuge's military advisor like his father in the future. Natalie Pavlovna, that's not what I said. That's what Dr. Sedunov said. And didn't he even recognize his father's portrait just now? He brought that portrait from China and hung it in the General Staff building with his own hands. This is a strategy. This is a strategy for Timely Dao. His father has passed away, and he has many competitors in the family. As you know, the number of military advisors in the Zhuge family is limited, and there are only a few in each generation. The competition is very fierce, and any means may be used. I hope so, Natalie Pavlovna. I hope you can understand that if something goes wrong with him, you have to reconsider your relationship with him. Mikhail Pavlovich, what are you talking about? What relationship do you want me to reconsider? No, it's nothing. Zhuge Xiaoliang vaguely heard the heroine Natalie and the Russian Prince Mikhail talking in Russian. They spoke very fast, but Zhuge Xiaoliang could hear them clearly. The content of their conversation seemed to be about the brain damage and memory loss of the unlucky guy named Zhuge Weidao. Actually, what Zhuge Weidao lost was not his memory, but his soul. Zhuge Xiaoliang thought to himself, I am the unlucky guy who lost his memory, and it seems that the history of this world has been changed beyond recognition. Even the Qing dynasty has been changed, and the Ming dynasty has continued. And I, the history teacher who knows the most about history, may be a useless fool here. What should I do if I become a fool through time travel? Thinking of himself looking like a fool, Zhuge Xiaoliang's head suddenly started to hurt, as if someone suddenly pricked his brain with a needle. He couldn't hold it back and screamed, ouch, again. Hearing his call, Natalie and the Tsarist prince stopped arguing and pushed the door open together and walked in. At this time, Zhuge Xiaoliang was completely awake from the pain and was looking at the luxurious room where she was. The decoration of the room can be described as dazzling. Various sculptures, antique furniture, precious porcelain, and oil paintings are all crowded into a quite spacious room. There are also murals on the ceiling of the room. The painting is actually the story of 3 visits to the thatched cottage. Weidao, are you awake? Does your head still hurt? Do you still remember? A face more beautiful than a porcelain doll came close to Zhuge Xiaoliang, who was sitting on the bed and looking up at the ceiling in a daze. Zhuge Xiaoliang just asked blankly, Natalie Pavlovna, where am I? For Dao. The blue eyes of the porcelain doll showed worry. You are in the Winter Palace. Winter Palace? Why is there a mural of 3 visits to the thatched cottage in the Winter Palace? The Prince of Tsarist Russia, Mikhail Pavlovich, stood beside the bed. When he saw Zhuge Xiaoliang looking up at the ceiling, he sighed, For the sake of truth, my friend, what's wrong with you? Why did you even forget your room in the Winter Palace? I have a room in the Winter Palace? Zhuge Xiaoliang couldn't remember it at all. Mikhail Pavlovich shook his head helplessly and explained, Your father, Duke Yud, lived here for 5 months after he commanded a fleet to break through the blockade of the French Navy and enter Petersburg in the autumn of 1812. After he left, my eldest brother ordered someone to paint this painting on the ceiling of the room. The Russian prince suddenly asked in Russian, Why? What is the name of the event in this painting? Visit the thatched cottage 3 times. Hearing what Zhuge Xiaoliang said, Prince Tsarist Russia and the Grand Duchess breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. They could still understand Russian and remember visiting the thatched cottage 3 times, which showed that Zhuge Weidao had not lost his memory at all. He was pretending to have lost his memory and was using a trick. When the Prince of Tsarist Russia wanted to test it again, someone suddenly knocked on the door of the room, and then he heard a loud question in Chinese. Brother Daozi, I am Guo Xiaobao. Can I come in? Who was Guo Xiaobao? Zhuge Xiaoliang looked at Mikhail Pavlovich, the Prince of Tsarist Russia, blankly. The Russian prince shrugged and said helplessly, Well, you have lost your memory. Lieutenant Guo Xiaobao is your military attaché and your good friend. A good friend? Zhuge Xiaoliang thought hard. He had no impression at all. Not only did he not have the impression of Guo Xiaobao, he didn't even have the impression of Zhuge Yud. and he couldn't find any memory of Grand Duchess Natalie Pavlovna. In short, this unlucky guy named Zhuge Weidao seems to have left no memory of himself. Oh, it's not like there's no chance at all. I understand Russian. Okay, please invite him in. Zhuge Xiaoliang rolled up his tongue and tried his Russian, and he still spoke fluently. Guo Xiaobao, who is in his 20s, has a short stature, is short and fat, and has an average appearance. He only has a pair of eyes that roll around and show intelligence. When Zhuge Xiaoliang saw him for the first time, he was wearing a blue woolen army coat with the collar turned to the right. There were epaulets on the shoulders of the coat, a lieutenant title with 1 bar and 2 stars. There is also a very wide-armed belt tied around his waist, and a pocket version of the Xiaochuan knife is also hung on the armed belt. He also wore a black gauze hat on his head with 2 hat wings folded upward, looking a bit like 2 rabbit ears standing up. Is this the modernized official uniform of the Ming Dynasty? It looks quite impressive. Although Zhuge Xiaoliang cannot remember Guo Xiaobao at all, Guo Xiaobao seems to be Zhuge Weidao's best friend. Seeing Zhuge Xiaoliang holding gauze on his head, his dark face immediately showed an expression of worry and anger, and his brows were deeply furrowed. He quickly reached the bedside and asked with concern, "Brother Daozi, are you okay? Is your injury serious? Alas, you were fine when you went out in the morning. Why are you like this now?" Zhuge Xiaoliang looked at him for a while and felt that he was Zhuge Weidao's good friend, so he said in a formal tone, "Xiaobao, my injury is not serious." But Guo Xiaobao was stunned. "What? Brother Daozi, what did you call me? Isn't it right to call him Xiaobao? Should I call him Xiaogua? No, this little fat man with a black face is an ancient person. Zhuge Xiaoliang knows history very well after all, and knows that ancient people cannot be called by their names casually. If they are friendly, they can be called by their business names. If they are unfamiliar, they can be called official names, and behind their backs, they can be called gangster names. This fat little black-faced guy called Zhuge Weidao Daozi, and this Daozi should be the Chinese character. Thinking of this, Zhuge Xiaoliang could only smile awkwardly, raised his finger and pointed at his head and said, "Lieutenant Guo, I was shot here. Although it is not fatal, it is a bit of amnesia. I just lost part of my memory. I can't remember Lieutenant Guo's name." Guo Xiaobao was stunned again and said to himself, "You can't remember my font size, but you haven't forgotten the rules of address among scholars. I'm afraid I won't lose much with this amnesia." Thinking of this, he smiled honestly. "I'll tell you the word Baoji below." "Guo Baoji, Bao's brother." Zhuge Xiaoliang nodded and said in Russian to the Grand Duchess and the Russian prince beside him, "Mikhail Pavlovich, Natalie Pavlovna, I have something to ask Guo Baoji." The meaning is obvious. That is, please avoid these 2 people for a while. Chapter 3 found the old time traveler. Please collect it. Please vote for me. Please recommend me. Please read more. Mikhail Pavlovich and Natalie Pavlovna had all left. In a large room, only Zhuge Xiaoliang and Guo Xiaobao were left. The 2 of them looked at each other, and Zhuge Xiaoliang looked friendly, as if he and the fat little black man in front of him had been friends for many years. In fact, Zhuge Xiaoliang was a very real person before he traveled through time, and he was not good at pretending to be himself. But now, I don't know why, although my memory has not been restored, I suddenly have more thoughts. He just deliberately spoke to Mikhail Pavlovich and Natalie Pavlovna in Russian just now, just to tell Guo Xiaobao that he has amnesia. It may be true, or it may be false. Guo Xiaobao, on the other hand, had a face full of worry, as if he had been friends with Zhuge Weidao for many years, and now he was worried about his good friend. But in fact, he is also considering now what is going on with Zhuge Weidao. Is he really amnesiac, or is he using some kind of trick? Alas, these children of the Zhuge family just like to make up these unreal things, which are not real at all. You must be more thoughtful when dealing with them. "Brother Bao," Zhuge Xiaoliang asked, "can you tell me, how did our Ming dynasty survive the catastrophe of the 17th year of Chongzhen and continue to this day?" Guo Xiaobao was stunned again when he heard this. He looked at Zhuge Dao for a while, then shook his head and said, "Brother Daozi, Our Ming dynasty did not survive the catastrophe of the 17th year of Chongzhen. Emperor Lai died in the Ming dynasty after the city of Beijing was defeated. That means Nanming has continued it. Thinking of this, Zhuge Xiaoyang asked again, I wonder which emperor was the one who revived my great empire? Hua Xiaobao was still stunned, staring at the confused Zhuge Weidao. Brother Daozi, my Ming dynasty was not resurrected by any emperor, but your ancestor, King Zhuge Wuzhong, and the other 7 heroes of the resurgence, worked hard for the country and the people, and after more than 30 years of military campaigns, they destroyed the Tartars and restored the Ming dynasty to the people of the world. Zhuge Xiaoyang asked again, I wonder who the other 7 heroes of ZTE are. Don't you know this? Hua Xiaobao was speechless. What's going on with this guy? Don't know who the 8 kings of ZTE are? Don't you know that those people are your ancestors? But at the same time, you know about the unlucky Emperor Chongzhen and the Joseon Revolution in Chongzhen's 17th year. Thinking of this, Hua Xiaobao had to count on his fingers. The 8 ministers of Zhongxing are also called the 8 kings of Zhongxing. They are King Zheng Qingzhong and King Zhuge Wuzhong. They are the most important. Others include King Li Jin, King Lu Shu, King Li Kuei, King Mu Qian, Wang Zhenan, and Zhang Zhendong. Zhuge Xiaoyang listened and analyzed these kings in his heart. King Zheng Qingzhong is probably Zheng Qinggong. King Li Jin is definitely Li Dinghua. King Lu Shu should be Lu Wenxiu, Li Kuei. It should be King Li Kuei. It should be King Xiaochuang Li Laiheng, the leader of the 13 Kueidong families, and King Mu Qian must be Mu Tianbua. Wang Zhenan and Zhang Zhendong. Zhuge Xiaoyang couldn't guess who they were for a moment. Zhuge Xiaoyang asked again, I wonder what the names of Wang Zhenan and Zhang Zhendong are. Wang Xing, the king of Zhenan, Zhang Huangyan, the king of Zhendong. Zhuge Xiaoyang nodded and said in his heart, Okay, the anti-Qing heroes are doing well. Even Wang Xing of Wen Village, who resisted the Qing, and Zhang Huangyan of eastern Zhejiang were granted the title of king. But there is a strange character among them, the ancestor of this new body, King Zhuge Wuzhong. It seems that there is no hero named Zhuge in the history of Nanming. Then the name of King Wuzhong is... Hua Xiaobao didn't even know what to say. You asked for 3 names of the 8 kings of ZTE, and he obviously remembered the other 5. And I forgot that one of the 3 people is your ancestor. King Wuzhong's name is Shang Hongxiashan. Zhuge Zhongshan? Zhuge Xiaoliangsen said. The mystery is revealed. This Zhuge Zhongshan is 100% an old time traveler. History has been changed beyond recognition by him, which makes me lose my direction. But he changed it quite well. Brother Bao, I'm a little dizzy now. I can't remember many things clearly, so I can only ask you. Zhuge Xiaoyang continued to ask the question. He had already made a plan, and the matter of his amnesia had to be kept in the dark. So he couldn't go around asking people about his family's affairs. He had to find someone who really knew the situation and ask him to the end. The Hua Xiaobao in front of me is quite good. He is a military attaché and a subordinate of Zhuge Weidao. The relationship seems to be quite close. He must know the basic situation. If you ask questions now, you will be confused later. You ask, just ask, I will tell you everything. Hearing what Hua Xiaobao said, Zhuge Xiaoyang felt relieved, but for some reason, a very scary thought suddenly appeared in his mind. It is best to tell everything you know. If you want to kill someone, it is easier to kill one person than to kill a group. Thinking of killing people and silencing them, Zhuge Xiaoyang's heart trembled. I am such a kind person. Why would I think of killing people and silencing them? He glanced at Hua Xiaobao again. He was quite strong and didn't look easy to kill. He was thinking about killing people, but he still had a kind smile on his face. Of course, he didn't keep his mouth straight, and he continued to ask, Is this King Wu my grandfather or great-grandfather? Don't you know this? Hua Xiaobao didn't see murderous intent at all from Zhuge Weidao's fair and handsome face, so he patiently answered the question. It's your great-grandfather. Your family's generation is Zhongxing Yue, Yangwei all over the world. So my grandfather kept a taboo on promoting righteousness, and your respectable taboo was virtuous. The Nanming Zhongxing should have started in 1650. If it had been later, Zhang Huangyan and Lu Wenxiu would not be alive. Zhuge Xiaoyang thought to himself, it has only been passed down to 3 generations in 100 years. My generation is quite high. By the way, the Zhuge Yud in the oil painting hanging next to Potemkin's portrait also looks old. So my new father should have died normally, right? Thinking of this, Zhuge Xiaoyang suddenly asked sharply, Baoji, how did my father die? Ah! Guo Xiaobao was stunned again and again, thinking to himself, didn't your father die of old age? Could it be that he was killed by others? That's not right. There is nothing strange about the death of Marshal Zhuge, right? Well, Guo Xiaobao frowned and said, my father-in-law was already over 70 years old when he passed away. Although he was in good health and got married when he was 60 years old, he was already old after all. It seems that he died of old age, Zhuge Xiaoyang thought to himself, but we can't rule out the possibility of being killed. Zhuge Xiaoyang asked again, why did my mother pass away? Guo Xiaobao shook his head. I don't know about this. Your Majesty, Mrs. Li has passed away many years ago. Is he the madam? Zhuge Xiaoyang thought to himself. It seems that this Zhuge Weidao is the legitimate son, and his parents are both dead. It's good that both of them are dead, so it won't be easy for me to pretend to be him. Then, do I have any brothers or sisters? Yes, Guo Xiaobao nodded. Brother Daozi, you have an older brother, an older sister, a younger brother, and a younger sister? Your older brother's name is Wei Shui, and your younger brother's name is Wei Yi. Your sister is called Wei Yu, and she is married to the Prince of Jinan. Your sister is called Wei Lan. She is young and is waiting to be named in the boudoir. 3 brothers. Zhuge Xiaoyang thought, we must fight for the family property. I don't know how much property we can fight for. In addition, there is a stepmother. What is the origin of my father's renewal? Zhuge Xiaoyang asked. Baoji, do you know? Guo Xiaobao nodded, with a look of helplessness on his face. I know. She is my aunt, and the biological mother of your 3rd brother and 2nd sister. It turns out we are still relatives. Zhuge Xiaoyang thought to himself. But my stepmother's nephew is not a good relative, so I have to be careful. Thinking of this, Zhuge Xiaoyang decided to change the topic. Instead of asking about family affairs, let's ask about national affairs. Since God asked him to come all the way, it must be a big responsibility, so let's put aside such small things as house fights. Baoji, Zhuge Xiaoyang asked, how many of the 8 families of heroes who helped revive the Ming dynasty in the past are still left? Guo Xiaobao was startled again. Why did Daozi ask this? Have you forgotten the 8 Kings Blood Alliance? 8 Kings Blood Alliance? I don't remember.